Hello, Kaylynn. How are you?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
Good. Thank you for being here. We are here
Good,
to
thank
talk
you.
about your spiritual awakening journey and how you were starting to sense kind of this new awareness, this extra sensory, your gifts kind of coming online, and how you've really
Yeah.
dedicated the last couple of years of your life to exploring this.
Yeah.
So I'm happy to know you, and it's so fun to see you sparkle because I've watched kind of your progression and
Yeah.
you're just so in your power.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Yeah, things kind of started out. I think I started inviting in this energy in summer of 2022. I started, reading Joe Dispenza books and astrology and herbalism, and I got pretty deep into it, but I didn't quite understand it. And then October of 2022, time started to feel weird. 3 days was literally feeling like 3 months. And I was getting really confused. And I was seeing somebody at the time and I was projecting that onto them really bad. And I started journaling to try to figure out like what is going on. And then I started seeing angel numbers every single time I looked at my phone. So things just started happening, but I didn't quite put two and two together that it was any sort of awakening process. Um, so when it really got intense was January 2023. I did go through a breakup and I was really hard on myself about that because I had all this weird stuff happening and I was projecting it onto that person and I blamed myself for that breakup. So it just, trying to navigate this, you know, what I didn't know at the time was just the spiritual stuff happening in a breakup and then, the guilt and shame of blaming myself. And so I was kind of like, okay, what do people do to feel better? They heal. And I was like, how do people heal? And I started meditating. And I was like, I don't know how to do this, but I'm going to try it. So I did my first meditation. I just sat on my couch and I kind of connected to my inner child. And I felt this like explosion of warmth through my body. And I was like, there's something to this. So
What did it feel
things,
like in those moments? How did you know that that was a pureness or a loving frequency?
I at this time I've never felt what peace felt like, but in that moment I felt warmth and peace and I was like, there's something to this. It was just an overall just peace. um and so I kept doing it, and from there my abilities started to open up more. I realized telepathy is real. I was hearing clairaudient messages. My ears started ringing, and then like I'd get a message right after. And that guided me. And I started to see physically um, angel numbers like crazy. I would drive 2 miles to the store and I would see 20 to 30 cars with license plates with angel numbers. I was like, that is not possible. As cool as I thought this was, I was in a lot of emotional pain. I was in a lot. This was not easy. I would go to work, or I would work from home at the time, and I would cry. And then I would go to yoga. I would come home and cry. There was so much purging. It was everything that I have ever buried in my life for 30 years at this time came up at one time, came up all at once. And I started journaling, and I had learned later I was automatic writing, and I would be 30 pages into journal pages and I would have no idea what I even wrote, but then I would kind of sit there and I was unwinding everything in my life. So April 2023, so the day you and I met, I had this huge kind of thing happen. I'd been kind of tired of all this. I was like, I've been going through so much. I deserve a massage. I'm going to go to, I booked one at the yoga studio that I went to, and I was like, I deserve this. And something happened that day of the massage, and I was like, I can't. I can't go. I can't do this. I didn't want to leave my house. I was just in despair. And I went to go cancel our appointment, and I had a message come through, go. Yeah. And I was like, oh my God, this massage, she's going to think I think I came to you with my hair in just a mess. I had been bawling all day. Like, and I look at you, I remember looking at you, and I was like, my solar plexus hurts. And immediately I felt stupid because I didn't fully know what that was at this point. And I hadn't really talked to my mom knew some details about what was going on, but I hadn't talked to anybody about this. I was completely alone.
Mhm.
I was at the point where, prior to us meeting that day, I was looking into going to the doctors and being like, what is happening right now? Um, so after telling you my solar plexus hurts, you're like, I'm an energy healer. And I was like, oh God, I feel less stupid now and for saying that. And um, so we did an energy healing instead. And you validated my experiences where I think I went home and I was just in complete silence, like, oh my God, I can breathe again. I don't feel like I'm on a psychotic break. Like I can't even describe to you just how like the validation of that session was. So, you know, 2 days after that we did our first energy session together, I started to physically feel other energies. So I was standing next to somebody at Starbucks and I felt this my energy physically move from me to him.
Mm.
And I felt kind of crappy. And I was like, that was weird. So I walked away and then I felt fine. And then I went back. I was like, okay. So I went back and it happened again. And that day I went to a painting party and the artist that was teaching us the painting, she when I stood next to her, I was like, I filled up. I'm like, what is going on? And then, this was happening to everybody. So it was a little overwhelming at that time. So that's when I learned I need to I need to learn some sort of psychic energetic boundaries. Um, so I signed up for my first Reiki 1 and 2 course, and I think I saw you again maybe a month later. And our second or third session, we did the first soul connection session. Now, this really opened up just my ability to see who I was, who I was at my core, who my soul is. And I was able to kind of see in my mind's eye and feel all of these tethers on my body that were keeping me in this kind of stagnant place where I was. And I had already started the process of letting go of these tethers, but I really was able to like kind of observe and see just how much I was not living my truth. So within maybe a month or two, I had left my corporate job. I put in at this time I started serving at a restaurant in the cities here. I started serving and I just wasn't sure if I didn't know how this was going to work. I hadn't served in a long time, but I was working like 60 hours a week. And I was like, okay, I can't do this much longer. I love this serving job. Can I sustain this though? And I woke up one day, I was like, we get the schedule tonight after the shift. If I have four shifts a week for this next set of schedules, I'm going to put in my notice for my corporate job. And I actually had a couple that same day that I served, and I can't believe they said this. They looked at me and they said, you're going to go far, and you really just need to trust where God is sending you and the messages that He sends you. And I was like, all day I was like, I might be quitting my corporate safe, well-paying job today. And these people that I don't even know just said that to me. I went home that night to check the schedule and I had the 4 shifts. So that next day I put in my month's notice. But with that, I was able to recognize that we get a lot of messages from the universe from other people, not just license plates and signs. And, you know, our messages are coming in from other people. So by this time, I was the soul connection really actually connected me to my psychic gifts a lot more. I was blinking and seeing an event happen, and it would happen shortly after, or I would see somebody, or, you know, I called them glimpses. My dreams started to escalate and they would come true. And, you know, it was really wild, but it wasn't easy. I was still purging emotion every single night. And but when I started to get these messages through other people, such as that, I started to feel less and less like, oh, I have love and, I'm supported by everybody around me. There's a reflection of me in everybody in every conversation. So I started to understand more through the soul connection. So I did have to let go of a lot of things and a lot of people and have tough conversations. And it wasn't always easy, but, um, I began facing the fears, and I went to Sedona, Arizona in May this year, and that was my first solo vacation. One of my fears is, being alone in general was one of my fears, and being, especially traveling alone. So I was like, let's do it. So I went to Sedona, and in Sedona, I had this moment. I was like, I'm ready for the quantum soul retrieval. Like, this is it. This is time. And I was, I kind of just had this moment. I was like, this is going to bring in a lot, a lot of healing. And I'm ready for it. So out loud, I was like, all right, universe, if this is time, I want cash in hand. I want to pay cash. When I have the cash, I will schedule with Jen. Within 1 week, I had 3 people ask me to dog sit for them, and cash tips at work skyrocketed. So I had the money within, maybe a month. And then it worked out perfectly with you to do the whole quantum soul retrieval on a Tuesday. And so we did that. And the presence that has brought into my life is, I'm able to kind of view, I hope I can explain this well. I'm viewing life now from kind of a bird's eye view, where I'm able to now see this connection between everybody, everything at all times, whether they're in your life or not, and why. And it's very fascinating, but it allows for a lot of, I'm able to relax because there's so much going on in the back, that things are being shifted for us to succeed, that we don't know about or that we can't see. So after the full soul retrieval, I felt this wholeness that I can't fully explain. It's those tethers that the soul connection showed me kind of came back at me with whole puzzle pieces. I feel like that's the best way for me to describe it. And I felt this wholeness again. And it's just nothing but love. And it's just pure happiness. I wake up every day now just happy. And what this brought, though, was things that I thought that I would never do are coming into my existence. So within, it may have been 3 days, I had known, I was like, I need to start a business. And I resisted that. I did. I resisted it quite a bit. Because vulnerable moment here prior to doing the inner work, I never thought I'd be good enough. I never thought I would have the knowledge that people would want to start a business. So I was safe and happy working under somebody else.
Yeah.
So I resisted it for a couple days. No, it was probably a couple weeks to be honest. And my friend Melanie, she owns Vital Retreats, Vital Being Retreats, and she had texted me. She's like, I looked up your business name. It's not there. You should probably do that. And sends me all of the information to start a business. So Melanie had also asked me to help serve and provide services at her yoga retreat. So, like I said, she owns Vital Being Retreats, and she was asking me to be a part of that and be a service provider there. And so all of these things were coming in and I'm like, oh my gosh, like it was amazing. So I started the business and then we got to planning for this retreat. Her and I went to Quebec together. And so we traveled, up to Canada to plan a yoga retreat. How amazing is that? And these opportunities are coming in. And one big one recently, um, I had I had won a scholarship to a workspace called the Coven. Um, Short story, I met a girl one day and I met her a week prior to this. I ran into her and her friend outside of this workspace. There's a coffee shop next door, and I was talking to her a little bit, and I was like, "Oh yeah, I wanted to take a look at this place called the Covenant. They have hot pink floors and pom poms hanging from the ceiling. I need to look at it." And you know, the girl that I had just met, her friend was like, "They do free scholarships there," and I was like, "What?" I had just heard about this place minutes ago, and so I kind of had that trust, like I had just met this girl a week prior. The odds of me running into her outside of a space that I'm about to tour, you know, the connection was there. I was like, I gotta apply for this scholarship, and I won. And then I find out they also offer free business courses. So I get to kind of enhance my business through free courses. So all of these things are kind of coming in, and these puzzle pieces are coming in,
You're attracting
So
exactly
it's
what you need.
everything I need is coming in. Yeah, it's beautiful. It's just like so I just a few weeks ago worked my first yoga retreat and it went so well. I've never cooked for more than 4 people before in my life and I cooked Ayurvedic meals for 21 people. And yes, it was so good and I had a few moments where I was like, oh my God, like this is my soul's path. This is it. I'm doing it. Like I you can question all you want sometimes where you're going, but you're doing it. You are doing it right now. And that was just this huge moment that I had during this retreat. And it was so beautiful and speaking in front of 20 people and hosting kind of a workshop and I faced a lot of fears and it just went fluidly and I'm happy to be going back next year. So yeah, so that's kind of my quick version of what happened and the soul connection and soul retrieval and how they impacted my life. I can't even begin to explain just the feeling of wholeness from
And,
it.
and it is such a hard feeling to describe in words. And I think you've really encapsulated it because you're talking and speaking to you creating what you want, but but getting out of your own way and using the energy that comes to you and trusting the flow of your own existence.
Yeah,
Like, for example,
exactly.
you knew you needed to start a business and you're like, I don't know how to start a business. How am I going to do
Yeah.
this? So you're like, okay, I'll do it. And then you meet the people and then they come to the street corner and then you tour and it's just like all of these things fall into place and you act on them And now you're
Yes.
winning scholarships. It's
Yeah.
just, would you say that, how would you describe the resonance of knowing what is for you?
Honestly, like a calmness. So, for example, that scholarship that talked about, I knew like I kind of connected the dots. Like I don't have to stress about getting this scholarship or not because how this lined up. I had just met a girl a week ago who had, you know, I ran into by happenstance in the middle of a Monday, right outside of here. It was this calmness, like I don't have to worry about it. Um, I would say it's just kind of just peace, when there's a lot of force behind something, that's when I take a step back and be like, is this in my highest good right now? Yeah. If my mind's getting too involved, if there's a lot of force and discomfort, the discomfort is when I start to question, like, okay, is this for me?
Yep.
So
How would you describe how you work through emotions? Because there was one point in this discussion where you said you wake up every day happy, and that is something that comes from within. But there are some triggers in life that happen
yeah.
that cause pain or discomfort. So, how do you remain happy but still experience the range of emotions?
I allow myself to feel it, first of all. Um, so yes, I do wake up happy, and I have those days where, I'm not the happiest, but I allow myself to feel that, and I do understand now through all of that, that feeling those, lower, denser emotions are a part of being human, but it's also showing me where I might need to grow from. So I'll sit back and ask myself, why do I feel this way? How can I work through this? I might journal. I'm actually really experimenting with EFT tapping right now. It's helped so much. So I will go into kind of like this quiet meditation and ask myself, where am I feeling this emotion? Can I kind of figure out where it came from? And then I'll tap on it. If I don't think the emotion is mine, there are times where I might absorb somebody else's emotion. That's kind of when I actually draw in the quantum field and say, hey, can you take this out? So I kind of work with both energy. So I work with the quantum field when it's a little bit more of a psychic
Yeah.
thing happening, but when it's my own, I sit with it and it's not always comfortable, but it allows me to be able to have, more happy emotion than not so happy emotion, which didn't used to be the case at all.
And when you are determining whether an emotion is actually yours or when it's someone else's, is there, like, how would you describe the process of that inner knowing, that knowing of your own soul? Like, how does that shape for you? How does that show up? How do you tell?
Right. And this took me so long to figure out. I'm still learning. I'm still learning. But, first of all, giving myself alone time when I really got to learn who I was. What is my what is my soul essence? Then I have to kind of think, okay, is something coming up that might cause a little bit of fear? Is something, am I about to do something that might cause me to be a little bit nervous? That's probably my emotion. But if nothing is going on, and I know I didn't feel this way before an interaction with this person, then I know most likely I absorbed some of their energy and then I release it. I used to have to release it by crying. I could not figure out how to release it until, you know, EFT tapping and then bringing in the quantum field to be able to kind of take it away.
And that knowingness, in my experience, comes from also doing the soul connection and soul retrieval, where we know how to release it, like we sense it and
Hmm.
can see it and just move it away. But if
Yes.
someone didn't know how to do that, or were just starting on their journey, how do you describe how that happens? The bringing in the quantum to release or transmute.
So I would bring in kind of what you taught me, like a protective circle. And
Mhm.
I would just visualize just a circle of light around me. But then I would also kind of scan my entire body and feel. The biggest thing that I learned, which is most important, is to feel, not think. So I was scanning my body and feeling differences. By this point, I had learned Reiki. I'm a Reiki master at this point, but I also like to try to do this by just feeling rather than using my hands. I kind of work with both. And when I felt a difference in energy through a scan, then I would kind of like, all right, what's going on here? Am I in contact with somebody that may have, had an energetic cord to this area on my body? Was there a conversation that happened with somebody that there could have been a cord like to the solar plexus? That's a common one. Um, and then I would feel, and then I would say, to my guides and angels, please take this away and release this cord. Any emotion that does not belong to me must be removed and returned to its original source with love. So that's kind of what I started to do at first. And then over time, learning again my soul essence, it just got easier and easier. And it started to, I didn't necessarily have to take so long to release it.
Mhm. Mhm.
It's practice. It's a lot of practice.
It is. It is a lot of
Yeah.
practice.
Yes.
What would you say? Do you have any advice for someone who might be experiencing what we all kind of experience, that beginning awakening stage where they're not sure what's going on, but like angel numbers and all this stuff is happening and they're an emotional mess, a beautiful disaster, but they're in it. What is your
Yeah.
advice?
Journal. Journal it out. I kid you not. I'm on journal 13 within a year and a half. Journal. Don't be afraid to go see a spiritual advisor or talk to somebody. Had I not, blurted out my solar plexus hurt to you, I don't know where I would be. You know, I don't necessarily think that we need to dump all of it. Even when we met, I blurted everything out to you. I don't think that's necessarily something we need to do per se to everybody, but maybe go see a spiritual advisor or journal or, don't be afraid to just sit with it and allow those emotions to come up, because the more you allow them to come up, the more energy you're releasing, and becomes easier and easier. When we resist, I learned that when we're resisting the emotion that's coming up, it makes it harder. And it is not easy to physically see these things. It's not easy to see them without questioning your mental health, but just in general, knowing that you're not alone was one of the most important things that I heard from you. You're not alone. This is happening to millions of people. And there are places that you can go to that people will listen. That is going to be a part of my journey to Ayurveda. My business is I am going to offer that service to those who might not want to start their health journey just yet, but they're starting to, see and feel and hear. Their clairs are turning on. And yeah, it's important to not shut yourself off from the
Absolutely.
world.
So
Yeah.
let's talk about your business and how you are serving people. So I have seen you light up on social media and you are
Mhm.
teaching people how to cook. Tell me everything.
So I was Ayurveda was kind of guided into my life because as much as the quantum field is amazing and so fun, we still have to take care of this body. I wasn't. I started experimenting with different, health and nutrition in 2022, but like I was not taking care of my body. And I think it was guided into my life because I don't think I would have been able to sustain having this awakening and having these psychic abilities without taking care of what the physical aspect of myself. And it has rapidly turned my life around. And so basically with Ayurveda, everybody is individual. Not everybody can eat salads and be healthy. Not everybody can have smoothies and be healthy. It's not, everybody is individual. So what I do is I will send somebody a pretty, a pretty intensive questionnaire. And I want to know your diet, your lifestyle, your sexual management, and how you sleep. It's a process. And, I try to remind people like this is about you. This is self-love. This journey is you're really gonna learn about yourself. And what I would be offering is, we're gonna take baby steps first. So we need to kind of clear up what's going on up here in order to, because it's all connected. Your mind, body, and spirit, it's all connected. We do need to kind of start with up here first because in order to clear up your digestion, we kind of need to figure out what's blocking you from taking those steps to begin with. So we start small. And then eventually we're going to work into, all right, we need to take this out of your diet and maybe replace it with this. Or let's adjust a few things here. And then, kind of things will progress and be a little bit more, I don't want to say challenging because it's all fun. It's so fun to just kind of see what works for you, works with your body. And once you start to come back into balance, you can really feel what brings you out of balance. I absolutely cannot drink coffee anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
I am so bummed about it. I loved it. But even just within the last few weeks, one sip, I feel inflammation, my head gets spacey, I feel like I have cotton in my mouth. Like,
R.I.P. coffee.
you what?
R.I.P. coffee. Yeah.
I know. And I resisted that for a while. But in Ayurveda, like coffee's a no. It's very acidic. It causes inflammation. So that's just one example of like your body's going to start to reject the things that are bad for you when you start kind of coming back into a more balanced state. Now, when we're balanced, we are able to tune into our psychic abilities more. We're going to be able to bring in these synchronistic experiences more. And I think it's interesting because I think a lot of people are going to be able to, rather than having such a like rapid spiritual awareness like maybe we had, I think learning how to balance out your body first so everything else isn't so rapid in the spiritual world is it's going to be very interesting. And I think that's kind of where we're heading in this like earth shift is rather than having so many people go through like kind of a spiritual
Oh.
psychosis, I guess I'm not really sure the right term for it, but rather than this massive boom, let's all just get into a balance in a more gentle way, and then we can all have these experiences. And I think Ayurveda is going to be really important there for that. So, with these wellness questionnaires, I'm going to look at you individually. What can you do? And it's not going to be the same as your partner or your friend.